Okay, we're preparing for our live setting up the meeting. Okay, I think we're now live on Facebook. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, IFNG. Good evening, Niner Squad. So for tonight, we are on this third, I think, leg of our Ielts versus PTE. So for tonight, Sir Brian Martin Sioson, aka hashtag Brainy Brian, will give us some glimpse on how does the reading part of PTE is done. Sir Brian.
Hi, guys. Welcome to all of those people who are attending my session tonight at IFNG's live Facebook feed, and also to all of those people who joined us today on Zoom. Good evening, and today we're going to talk about something very interesting. And I know that a lot of you are finding it very tough to work on the reading test of IELTS, and along with that, I would like to also discuss today what the different types of questions are for IELTS, and also compare them against the Pearson test of English, just in case you're interested to also consider the PTE academic to be an alternative examination for your overseas application going to Australia. In the past 2 weeks, I have discussed speaking and also writing for the PTE academic. Today, it's going to be a different subtest that we're going to discuss, which is the reading subtest. Now, if you have friends whom you also want to benefit from this lecture, because I'm going to give you some sample exercises later that you can work on to determine whether you are competent enough to get a good score in IELTS or in PTE. So if you have friends whom you want to invite to this Zoom live, you can share with them this link or this page, and hopefully they'd be joining us tonight for us to increase our audience, and of course for more people to learn from this session. Okay, so everybody, good evening, and I would like to introduce myself just for those people who have not seen me before. My name is Brian. I'm one of the lecturers of 9.09er IELTS Review and Tutorial Center. I've been training candidates to take the IELTS and the PTE plus OET on the side for the past 11 years. And I've actually taken both exams, the PTE and the IELTS. So I think I am in the right position to talk about both examinations, since I have actually sat both tests and successfully cleared both with stellar marks. In IELTS, I got 9 across the board. So my scores are 9 in listening, reading, writing, speaking, and the overall band score. And I also got 90 over 90, which is the perfect mark for the Pearson test of English across the board for listening, reading, writing, speaking, and the overall. Right. So enough about me. I would like to talk about you guys. Where are you headed? I know some people here might be headed to certain countries that require English exams, and IELTS is one of those requirements for you to go to different destinations. Today, we're going to talk about IELTS. We're going to talk about some difficult types of questions, perhaps for the reading examination, and how to possibly address those questions. And also, if you stick around till the end, and you're planning to go to Australia, I'm going to give you an alternative to IELTS, which is the PTE or Pearson Test of English Academic. Maybe this is a better examination for you, or something that you might want to consider instead of taking IELTS. All right. So yeah, let's get started first with IELTS, and then later on, I'm going to discuss the Pearson Test of English Academic. First, I would like to welcome everybody who's joining this live session. You are attending a session hosted by IFNG in collaboration with 9.09er IELTS Review and Tutorial Center. Let's talk about IELTS reading. This is a glimpse of what you're going to encounter in your actual reading test for IELTS. IELTS reading is composed of 3 different reading passages when you're taking the academic module. But let me clarify, for those people who are taking the general training module, you have 5 to 6 passages to read. The total number of words you will be reading would be roughly 2,700 words to 3,000 words, give or take, depending on the difficulty of your examination. And each of the passages will be around 500 to 900 words in length. If you're receiving an IELTS academic test, then the passages are longer, right? About 900 to 1,000 words each. Whereas when you're taking the general training module, you will be receiving shorter passages, about 500 to 600 words each, okay? Now, there will be 40 questions for you to answer, and a common misconception in IELTS is that IELTS general training is naturally easier because you have simpler and shorter passages, but that's not actually the case, because when you're receiving an IELTS academic test, then your academic examination will have longer passages, but there are only fewer sections, or 3 sections only as opposed to 5. Whereas when you're taking general training, the passages are shorter, yes, but you have more of them. So the total number of words that you will be reading, regardless of the type of examination or module of the test you're sitting, will be roughly the same. So it doesn't matter whether you're taking the academic module or the general training module, the skills that you need to show to the examiners for you to get the good score in this examination would be very intense, right? And would probably be the same level for either modules. Okay, you are provided a total of 1 hour to finish the whole subtest. And when we talk about 1 hour, it's very different from the IELTS listening exam, because when you're taking the listening examination, usually after the test is over, you still have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to your answer sheets. Or at least for the computer delivered examination, you'll have a couple of minutes, maybe 2 minutes, to check your answers before transferring your answers onto or maybe finalizing all of your responses on your answer sheet. So it's kind of different for reading, because when you're taking the reading examination for IELTS, you don't have transfer time. You do not have extra transfer time. So you have 1 hour to complete the entire thing. You need to accomplish everything from reading the passages, reading the questions, answering the questions, and most importantly, especially when you're taking the the paper-based examination, transferring your answers onto an answer sheet. Because if you don't have anything written on your answer sheet, even if everything is right, you got everything correctly, you won't get a single point. So you're gonna get a 0 for your reading examination for IELTS. Okay, now let me talk about some questions or question types for the reading examination for IELTS. I know a lot of you have been studying for IELTS already, and perhaps you might have already been exposed to the examination previously. Can you tell me which particular parts of the examination are you finding difficult, right? So which parts of the examination, or which particular question types are you finding difficult? You can type your answers on the message box, and I'll try to read all of your responses. Okay, so which ones are you finding difficult in your IELTS reading examination? When it comes to the the types of questions that you can get in your examination, which ones are the most difficult for you? Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of people posting true, false, not given. We're going to talk about true, false, not given later. Okay, so I'm going to give you some time to study this part of the examination. Yeah, right. True, false, not given is kind of hard. Yes. Anything else? Multiple choice you're finding hard? Okay. Yes. Anything else perhaps that you're finding difficult? Matching headings. Okay, matching headings. All right, so I'm going to talk about many of these types of questions in your examination. And I'm also going to give you some samples if you're interested. Yeah. So if you have friends, please invite them over to this session because this is going to be an insightful session where we're going to discuss, the different types of questions that are difficult for IELTS. I have actually selected the questions that are tough, and we're going to also rationalize some answers to questions. We're going to do some exercises, and I'm also going to compare IELTS against the PTE later. Okay, so anyway, all right. So essentially, the types of questions that you receive in IELTS can be tough, right? That's a fact. We cannot deny this, right? The question types in IELTS are not necessarily super difficult, but then they are quite tough, and they require a lot of skills and a lot of training and probably the correct strategy, right? So I think a lot of people who are taking the examination do not get their desired scores in the test because it's not because they're weak when it comes to reading or they don't comprehend things well, but they do not practice and they don't know the proper strategies. They're not trained to take the examination in the first place. And that is to a large extent the reason that plenty of candidates who are sitting the examination don't get a good score. So today I'm going to discuss a few things that might help you to increase your aptitude to pass your English exam, particularly for the reading component of your test. Okay, right. So let's get started with the first one that I would like to talk about for tonight. And the first type of question that I've selected for tonight is the matching paragraph headings question type. Okay, so we're going to talk about matching headings to paragraphs. So when you are receiving matching paragraph headings question, what do you get are lists of headings. Sometimes you get more than one matching paragraph headings in your examination. So you get a long list. This is actually pretty short, but in the actual exam, you have a long list of questions or sorry, headings that you will have to look at. And then you will be seeing some sections that are labeled. And sometimes they have, particular letters, right? For example, passage A, passage B. And you will have to match them with the correct headings. Right. So how do we approach this type of question? What is the best way that we can deal with this type of question? So I'm going to give you some insight on what you're supposed to do when you ever encounter a question like this. For matching paragraph headings, the best approach is to read first all of the headings and try to understand, try to internalize what those headings are so that you will already be able to tell what you're going to see, or you're going to be able to anticipate what you're going to see when you start reading the passages, right? Don't read the passages first, because if you read the passages first, you are at that point still very much misdirected. You don't know where you're going, and you don't know what particular options you have. And it will be very time consuming for you to read the passages over and over again. So it's very efficient, it's more efficient if you're going to look first at all of the different headings and try to encircle or underline the keywords there. And then after which, try to, just a moment, guys. Try to look at the passages, start reading the passages. And after reading all of the passages, or the entire passage, you match it against the correct heading. Now, there will be always a relationship between the headings and the paragraphs that you're going to see in the passages. There will always be a connection between the headings that you will see and the different passages that you're going to see. Just a moment, guys. Some people have not muted their microphones. So I'm just going to mute people so that we are quiet here. All right. So as I was saying, there will be always a connection. So sometimes you will not see the exact words in the passage, but it is possible for you to see synonyms or probably rephrased words in your passages that are very identical to the ones that you're going to see in the options. Okay, so let's get started with the first item that I have here. All right, so I have four options. Actually, in the examination, you get more than four options. So for now, I'm going to give you four different options and I want you to read them carefully. Can you see, guys, from Facebook, the options? Can you see? Just probably give me a like or a heart, just in case, if you are able to see the options, right? I'm going to recite all of the options as well. So 1, library management. 2, the history of libraries. 3, the organization of libraries. And 4, libraries in ancient Egypt. So looking at all of those headings, you will instantly be able to tell that we're going to probably read a passage about. What do you think is this passage all about? Give me a keyword, perhaps. Okay, what do you think will be this passage? What will we see in the passage? What can we anticipate the passage to be about? It's about, because we have certain keywords here. So possibly, yes, it's going to be about libraries. Okay, so let's try to, and this is a tip I always give to my students when they're working on matching paragraph headings. Try to imagine, try to envision the options. Don't just look at the options and look at the words and circle the keywords. That's usually not enough. So library is already a given in all of these four options. So I do not think library should be the one that should be highlighted. Okay, and that would need to be highlighted. So for number 1, the keyword here is management. All right, so let's think of management. All right, have you ever managed anyone before or anything before? Have you functioned as a manager before, or have you seen a manager before? So if you know what a manager does, then you would be able to envision what library management is all about. So probably this is the person who is taking responsibility for the entire operations of the library, right? So we are talking about the operations here of libraries according to how they are properly managed. Okay, number 2, the history of libraries. So I guess the keyword here is, what do you think is the keyword for option number 2? I'm looking at the Facebook Live, and yep, the correct answer is history. Yes, very good. So when we talk about history, what is this all about? We are talking probably about the olden days, right? When libraries were first instituted or introduced. What happened to libraries over time? Have there been changes in the way libraries functioned in the society, right? So that's what we're talking about when we refer to history. Number 3, yes, EJ, that's correct. The origin of libraries. Number 3, the organization of libraries. So the keyword here is organization. When we talk about organization, let's try to imagine how this is going to go. What is an organization? Perhaps you are working in a company that you consider to be an organization. So if it's an organization, then there will be like, a top management, and then you will have like the rank and file employees at the bottom. And there are a lot of other positions in between. And this is also very applicable to libraries, I guess, in which perhaps the entire layout or the entire structure of the library is being taken into consideration here. How the different sections or different departments of the library are laid in place or perhaps arranged. And that's what we're talking about in option 3. And let's move on to option 4, libraries in ancient Egypt. I mean, this is very self-explanatory. We're not talking about Egypt. We are talking about ancient Egypt. So we are actually going to probably only isolate ourselves into seeing a passage that just talks about the development of libraries in ancient Egypt, nothing else. So we're not going to see anything but ancient Egypt and the libraries there. All right. So are you ready to see the passage? Okay, ready to see the passage, guys? I hope you're able to read from Facebook Live what I'm projecting. Okay, so give me a heart or a like just in case you want to see the passage already, or if you need more time, then perhaps you can give me a care. All right, so if you're ready to see the passage, please hit the like or heart button and care if you need more time. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of likes here and hearts. So I assume most of you are ready to see the passage. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. And I'll read the passage for you guys so that you will be able to figure out from the options which one is the best. Okay, so let's read. The earliest libraries that we know about were different from present-day libraries, as their contents were mainly government records. Archaeological findings from ancient cities of Sumer revealed temple rooms full of records of commercial transactions or inventories. Things were much the same in the government records of ancient Egypt. The earliest private or personal libraries containing both nonfiction and fiction books appeared in classical Greece. All right. So looking at this passage right here, which do you think is the best option? But before we jump into revealing the correct answer, let's head back into the list of headings. We have here library management, the history of libraries, the organization of libraries, and libraries in ancient Egypt. Now, I'd like to ask you, is there anything here about how libraries were managed, like the management? Do we have, for example, someone who leads the library here or takes charge of the obligations and duties in the library? I don't really think there is anything about that. So perhaps one is automatically eliminated. So I'm helping you out in figuring out the correct response. 2, the history of libraries. Do we have a history here of libraries? Yes, we do. We do have information about historical findings in ancient cities of Sumer, in Egypt, and also in Greece. So perhaps we also have an entire history in here explained in the passage. So 2 is a possible answer. 3, the organization of libraries. Is there anything here that talks about how libraries are organized or were organized before? I think we have organization here. Yeah, we do. They were government records. There were commercial transactions. There were inventories. There were nonfiction and fiction books. Right? So I think organization is a possible response. Libraries in ancient Egypt. Do we have ancient Egypt? Yeah, we do have ancient Egypt. It's very, very visible in the passage. We have government records of ancient Egypt right here. But which among these options is the best response. Please type your answer on the message box. I'd like to see what your responses are for this particular heading. So some people are putting 4. Some people are putting 2. Okay, so yeah. I'm looking at all of your responses right now. Some people are also putting 3, but of course, I hope nobody would put 1. All right, nobody would put 1. All right. So what is this all about, really? Okay. So first of all, I would need to eliminate option 4, libraries in ancient Egypt. Oh, I'm sorry to those who picked 4. That is not the correct response. And the reason is we can see from this particular passage, I'm going to use my pointer so that you'll see that we have not only ancient Egypt right here, we also have, other places like Greece, okay, ancient cities of Sumer, right? Okay. So we are not just talking about one, we're actually looking at all archaeological findings here, historical findings from different places, not just in one region, okay, which is ancient Egypt. So 4 is not the correct response. 1 is not a correct response. It's a toss between 2 and 3. All right, so what is the correct answer? All right, let's talk about the organization. How are libraries organized? Is there anything that indicates how libraries are organized today? Because I think that's what this is all about, how the libraries are organized, not how libraries were organized in the past, but how libraries are organized now. Because we have here, earliest libraries that we know about were different from present day libraries. I think something is amiss here. We do not have the present organization of libraries. We have how libraries were organized in the past. So what do you think is the best answer here? Is it 3 or 2? Okay, looking at all of the headings, the correct response here is 2. Who got this right? Give me a heart if you got it right. Maybe a like if you got it wrong. All right, so that's how tough it is to analyze matching paragraph headings for Ielts. Okay, so it's kind of difficult actually to get the right answers if you haven't had enough training. So it is very critical that you do not just look at keywords, because if you look at keywords alone and you do not comprehend the entire passage, that usually leads you to incurring mistakes or choosing the wrong responses, right, in the process. Okay, so that's one type of question that you can encounter in your Ielts, which is your matching paragraph headings. Okay, now let's move on to, I hope I could give you more questions, but we don't really have that much time and we still have PTE to discuss. So I'm going to just probably give you 1 or 2 items per question type. Okay, so here's another passage, right? So here we have library materials. Okay, so I will read the entire passage. The options are going to be very similar. Are they? All right, I think they are very similar. Let me just look at the options for this one. Yeah, the same. No, not the same. I'm sorry. So let's look at the headings for this one. Okay, so we have 4 headings. 1, library management. We have talked about that a while ago. Number 2, library extension planning. So when you think about planning for an extension, like how you're going to probably establish new parts of the library, how you're going to offer more services perhaps in the library. The organization of libraries, number 3, that's one that we have discussed a while ago. And libraries in user training. So, probably having training on how to make use of a library. Okay, so now let's move on to the passage. Okay, so let's go back to the passage. I'll read. Library materials such as books, articles, and CDs are usually arranged in a certain order, according to a library classification system, so that you can find particular items quickly. In addition to public areas, some libraries have additional rooms where reference materials are stored. Often, a professional librarian works from a reference desk or other central location to help users find what they're looking for. Okay, so there you go. That's the passage. What do you think is the correct answer here? All right, let's go back to the options. Okay, so we have library management. Do we have anything here that talks about managers in a library? Do we have anyone who takes control of the library here? Yes, we do. We have the professional librarian, but I guess that's the only person that you can see here. Number 2, do we have an extension? This is a possible answer. 1 is a possible answer. 2, I don't really think there is an extension here. So nothing was mentioned about an extension. So 2 is definitely not a correct response. Sorry, I revealed the answer. 2 is not the response. And we do have training. Why is this going back and forth? Okay, we do have training. Let me just go back. Okay, so we do have training here, right? So probably to help users find what they are looking for. That's actually helping them, training them. Okay, so perhaps this is possibly a correct answer as well. But the best response here is definitely 3, because we have here classification in that system in order to find items quickly. So we have the public areas. This is one department. We have additional rooms. Okay, we have reference materials. We have the reference desk, and then we have CDs, books, articles. All of them are organized. They are in sections or departments. So the correct response here is 3. Ladies and gentlemen, please give me a heart if you got it right and a like if you didn't get it right. Okay, so let me see how many of you got this correct. Hopefully you were able to pick out the correct response for this item. How many of you got this right? Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of hearts, interestingly. Yep, so maybe a lot of people got this item correct. Okay, so hopefully this helps you to improve how you're going to find answers, or give you a hint on how you're going to determine which one is the correct response when you're confronting a question like this, matching paragraph headings. Okay. Right now, as I said, we don't really have that much time, so I'm going to give you just a couple of questions perhaps per item type. So let's head on to true, false, not given. All right, I know this is actually very confusing for a lot of you guys. True, false, not given is definitely a very difficult type of question, but I need to explain what this exam is all about. All right, so for people here who are really confused about true, false, not given, and do not know what they're going to do when they ever encounter this type of question, sometimes it's yes, no, not given as well, or identifying the writer's opinions like TFNG, YNNG, or YN and not mentioned in the paragraph. If you ever have a question like this in the test, please know that this is more of a comparison test compared to a comprehension test. Let me elaborate on that a little further. When you ever encounter true, false, not given, what you need to do is to compare and not to analyze, not to overthink, and definitely not to over internalize the passage, because what you're going to do is to just compare, the statement with the passage. The passage and the statements in your true, false, not given item type will match. And if they match, then you have two possible answers: true or false. Sir, they match, but it's true or false? Yes, because when the keywords from the statements match that of the passage, then you have a couple of possible responses: true or false. True when everything is in congruence with what's written in the statements, or they are very much alike, or they match each other perfectly. And false when something is opposite or perhaps inconsistent with what is written in the passage. When do we write not given? When something is not mentioned in the passage. Even if we feel that it is likely true or it's likely false based on the implications or based on the interpretation that we have of the passage. Our interpretation and our own analysis will not matter in true, false, not given. The only source of your answer is the passage, nothing more. When you go beyond the passage, you get the wrong answer. So I think this is the reason why a lot of people get very poor grades when it comes to true, false, not given, because they're too smart. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being smart. But again, for true, false, not given, you do not internalize, you do not analyze, you do not overthink. You just compare the statements with the passages, right? Okay, that's easier said than done. So I guess I would probably be able to best explain this through examples, right? So I'm going to give you a few examples, perhaps, that we can work on for this session. And let me see if you're going to get the correct answers, okay? All right, so on top, I have the statement. And in the middle, I have the passage. And I want you to identify whether this is true, false, or not given, right? Sounds cool? Give me a heart if this sounds cool. All right. And if you have friends who are finding true, false, not given hard as well, why don't you invite them over so that they'd be able to have a fruitful session with us today, right? And they'd also learn from the strategies that I'm going to teach you today. Okay, so the first question is, if there are not enough people at the holiday park, the swimming pool might be closed. Do you get that, guys? And so, for example, I'm the manager of the holiday park. It's like a resort or something. And I have a swimming pool there. I want it to be closed because there are not a lot of people. There are just two people there frolicking in the waters. And I just felt very embittered by the two people there, the couple flirting around in the pool. So I drained the water in the pool and I said, the pool is temporarily closed because there are just two of you there and nobody is using the pool. So get out of the pool. This is temporarily closed. Okay, do you get the image? It's really best if you try to imagine or visualize what the passages are so that you'll have a better grasp or a better understanding of what you're seeing in the passages. Okay, so I'm going to read the passage now. Our brochure is printed long periods in advance, so we must reserve the right to make alterations without notice. Certain facilities, such as the swimming pool, are available as stated, but these may be withdrawn according to circumstances and demand. Please note that we do not employ lifeguards, and so children and non-swimmers must be accompanied by an adult. Tell me, guys, is this true? Is this false or not given? Do you want me to make it easier for you guys? Okay, so let's highlight a few keywords right here. So in the question, we have not enough people. We have the swimming pool, which will be closed. Oh, it's not just closed, it might be closed. All right, now looking at the passage, do we have not enough people? Do we have not enough people? Well, this is about the holiday park. So it's actually a given that this is about the holiday park. So that's the topic. It's the, you know, the regulations in the holiday park, right? So we're not going to put that in anymore because that's the title. All right. So anyway, do we have not enough people in the passage? No, we don't have not enough people. We do not have not enough people here. No, 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 we don't. But is there a possible synonym for it? Is there a word or a phrase here that might have the same meaning? And I'm actually seeing some people already giving me that word. That is, which word? Yes, the word demand. When you say that the demand is low, does it mean to say that there are not a lot of people using the pool? Yeah, it's actually precisely the same. Demand is the same as a low demand. I'm sorry, a low demand is also the same with not enough people. Question: is there any word here that has the same meaning as the word closed? Closed. Any word that has the same meaning as closed? Yes. What is it? Yep, you're correct. So I'm seeing some people posting the correct answer. It is withdrawn. And guys, it's not just withdrawn. It may be withdrawn. Just the same with might be closed. Exactly the same? Yes. In meaning, yes. Not exactly the same when it comes to the wording, but the meaning is identical. Do we have swimming pool here? Swimming pool. Do we have the swimming pool? Yes, we do. And it's actually written there very clearly. The swimming pool's service may be withdrawn if the demand calls for it. Okay, according to the demand or the circumstances. So, what are the possible responses here? Just true or false? Because everything is in the passage. We do not write not given. Do you get me, guys? Everything is in the passage. Not given is not an option anymore. So what is the correct answer? Okay, so a lot of people are putting their comments. The correct response is true. If you got this right, please give me a heart, or if you didn't get it right, then give me a like. Josie has a question. Service may be run if the demand calls for it according to the demand for the circumstance. So what are the possible responses here? Just true or false, because everything is in the passage. Do not, yes. Yes, that's correct, Josie. Not given is not an option because we can see all of the information in the passage. When you ever get everything in the passage, then it's a giveaway, right? That, you know, it's just true or false, right? And not given is not going to be an option anymore. I really am very, very disappointed with a lot of people when they're dealing with true, false, not given, because a lot of people tend to overthink and they're like, oh, but can it be possible that it's like this? Because according to the passage, it's like this. So, you know, possibly the result of that or the outcome of that is this. This is the implication. So possibly the answer is whatever. And it's very disappointing and very depressing because these candidates usually are not the ones who get good scores in the test since they are over analyzing the passages. Okay, so let's try another one. Ready for another one, guys? Okay, so let's give me a heart if you would like to see another question. And if you're ready to see the next question, because some of you might be taking down notes. Okay, so let us move on to the next one. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of hearts now. Let's head on to the next question. What's the next question? All right, we're going to talk about dogs. Do you have dogs? Yeah, maybe some of you have dogs, right? So we have here a passage about the holiday park once again. The number of dogs is restricted to one per booking. Okay, so can we bring dogs with us? Uh-huh, that's right. We can bring dogs. We can take our dogs with us. But how many dogs can we bring or can we take with us? How many, according to the statement? How many dogs can we take with us? Just one. One dog, right? For every booking. So let's read the passage. A limited number of dogs are allowed in the holiday park at an extra charge of $40 per week. Dogs will not be admitted into the holiday park unless advised and paid for in advance and will be strictly monitored. Dogs must be supervised and kept on the lead at all times. All right, so let's try to analyze once again. You don't answer, guys, the question based on your understanding. That's not how you do it in Ielts. You have to match all the keywords. So we're going to do that right now. We have number of dogs restricted, one per booking, only one per booking. All right. Do we have number of dogs? Yes, we have number of dogs right here. Restricted, any word that has the same meaning as the word restricted. Do we have any word that has the same meaning as restricted? Actually, we do. Which word is it? Which word has the same meaning as restricted? Correct. Limited. Okay, restricted, limited. Now, here's the million-dollar question. Do we have one per booking? We have information about the charge of $40 per week. An extra charge of $40 per week for every dog. And we have the word dogs here. And here is the problem of your very smart friend. Your friend is saying, sir, if there's a charge of $40 per week, then that means to say that I can take with me more dogs, right? It's just that, you know, it's written right here that's I need to pay $40, but if I pay 80, so I'll be able to have more dogs come with me or tag along. It's not just one, but more than one. And look at this, sir. Number of dogs. That's plural. That's not singular. We're not talking about just one dog here. We're talking about many dogs. My question is, can you see one per booking in the passage? Can you see one per booking? So what is the answer, guys? But sir, you know, it's very obvious. Look at it. Unlimited number of dogs. Hello. $40 per week per dog. Hello. So I can bring more. Hello. This is false. The answer is not given. You don't use your brains. This is likely false. Most likely false. But it's not written. We do not write false. We do not use our brains for true, false, not given. We compare the passage with the statements. Do you get my point, guys? Who got this right? Please give me a heart. And for those people who didn't get it right, give me a like. Just want to see survey through Facebook. How many got it right? Difficult question right here. Yes, it is. It's a difficult question. It's just about dogs, but it can be a difficult question when you're over analyzing the passages. So that's actually the main problem with a lot of candidates who sit the IELTS. when they encounter questions, they use up too much brains, and the result of that is they don't get a good score, right? So unfortunately, a lot of people fall victim to this kind of trap in the test. And I hope that you learned from this session how you're going to be able to avoid these kinds of situations in your IELTS. Okay, now I'm going to head on to the next type of question because we don't really have that much time. So the next type of question that we have right here is the typical multiple choice, right? And when we deal with multiple choice questions, actually, they're a lot easier compared to matching headings and to true, false, not given. But we still need to make sure that we understand what the options are first. Try to read the question first and the options initially, and then move on to the passage and answer the questions based on what you see in the passage. Okay. So we're going to talk about ballpoint pens, all right? So it says here, people went to Gimbels to buy ballpoint pens because, what is the reason they went to the store to buy the pen? A, they couldn't get them anywhere else. So it means to say it's not available anywhere else. They had been told how good the pens were. So they have been, informed perhaps that the pens are of good quality. Letter C, they had never seen a ballpoint pen before. Never have they ever experienced holding a pen like this or seeing this at all. Or letter D, they thought the price was good. It is affordable, right? When you say the price is good, then it is affordable. Okay, so ready to look at the passage? Let's go and read the passage. Most of us have at least one. But how did this popular item evolve? One morning in 1945, a crowd of 5,000 people jammed the entrance of Gimbel's department store in New York. The day before, Gimbel's had placed a full-page advertisement in the New York Times for a wonderful new invention, the ballpoint pen. The advertisement described the pen as fantastic and miraculous. Although they were expensive, $12.50 each, all 10,000 pens in stock were sold on the first day. Let's look at the options once again. All right. Can they get the pens anywhere else? Is there anything mentioned about Gimbel's being the only carrier of pens here? The only store that had stocks of the pens? I'm not really sure. So we can probably eliminate letter A. So cross that out. That's not an option. Was the price good? This is obviously wrong because it was expensive at $12.50. So we are actually only looking at two options here, either B or C. What is the correct response? Have they never seen a ballpoint pen before? Or they have been told that the pens were good? Keywords: fantastic, miraculous. There was an advertisement previously posted that indicated how miraculous or fantastic the pens were. So what's the correct response? I think you got this right. The correct answer here is letter B. Good job. All right. So there are plenty of other questions that you can receive in IELTS, but these are very common questions that you get in the test. So yeah, I just discussed the common question types that you can get in your examination. Now, I don't really have that much time, so I'm going to head over to the next section of our discussion, which is the PT academic discussion. I'm not sure if you can still read this, but in the PT academic, reading is very identical to IELTS, but there is no matching paragraph headings. There is no true, false, not given. All right. So if you are having a problem with your reading examination, particularly when it comes to Say, for example, true, false, not given, or matching headings to paragraphs, then you might want to consider the PT academic. Oh, we have a question here from Christian. Christian is asking, but sir, new invention. Okay, so that's good. That's a good question. Let's go back to the options. Right. The option here is they had never seen the ballpoint pen before. Do we have information about that? Is new the same as something that you have never seen before? Can it be new, but you have seen it already previously? For example, it's a new movie, right? And all the people who went there haven't really seen that. Is that what you're trying to point out? You have never seen the movie before? Or can it still be new 1 month or maybe a couple of weeks into it? The movie has already been released for probably a couple of weeks and it's been airing or it's been, uh, it's a movie that many people have already seen, but it's still relatively new because it's just 1 month into its initial introduction into the market. So new, it doesn't always pertain to something that people have never seen before, right? Because it can be new without having to be a totally novel item that people haven't ever seen previously. And although we can assume that people might not have seen them before, that's an assumption. It's not written in the passage. The only thing that's written in the passage is that all 5,000 people jammed the entrance of the department store because they saw an advertisement in New York Times about the wonderful new invention. But who knows, maybe among those 5,000 people, some of them have already seen the pen before, right? From a different store perhaps, or maybe from a different advertisement, not from Gimbals. We can never really tell because the passage does not contain information about that. But it's very clear that Gimbals gave information about the advertisement, about the pen, being advertised as fantastic or miraculous. So that's actually the correct response here, the better response. Maybe this is a good answer, but the correct and the most appropriate answer is definitely letter B. It's the best answer out of the lot. It can be a possible response. Yeah, I told you this is a possible response, but we're looking for the best answer. Okay, thank you for that question. All right, anyway, so what are the types of questions that you can receive in your Pearson test of English academic or your computer-delivered or computer-based Pearson test of English? Okay, so there you go. Multiple choice, just like Ielts, but we have two types of multiple choice questions you can encounter in the test. The first one is your choose single answer multiple choice, and the second one is your choose multiple answers multiple choice. So one type of multiple choice asks you to choose only one response, whereas another one asks you to choose more than one correct answer. Now we have brand new question types as well for PTE, which are reorder paragraphs, reading, fill in the blanks, and reading and writing, fill in the blanks. Okay, reading and writing, fill in the blanks is not really so much of a comprehension test, but more of a grammar test, I guess. And I'm going to give you some examples. I'm not going to deal with multiple choice anymore because you already know what they are. So we're going to head over to the reorder paragraphs. I'm not sure if you can see this. Okay, so I'm going to try and share this with you so that it's much clearer. I'm not sure if it's visible. So just give me a moment as I share this slide with you so that you'll be able to see it much better. So just a moment, guys. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, I guess this is a little bit clearer, more manageable. All right, so let's look at the Pearson test of English reorder paragraphs, okay? So when we have reorder paragraphs in the test, you will be given randomly ordered, okay, sections of an entire paragraph. So we have sentences here that will compose one entire paragraph. And what you need to do is to put them in the correct order. So I will read all of the components of this particular item and try to tell me among the different parts here, number 1, number 2, 3, 4, and 5, what the correct order should be. So you have to write the correct sequence of the numbers. All right, so the first one, he convinced Professor Fitzgerald of the University of Hull to set up a study into this matter. This is the second one. Professor Fitzgerald and his team studied more than 47,000 women. The third one, the women were asked to fill in a questionnaire about their diet and about their suffering from acne. Fourth one, no link was found between acne and traditionally suspect food such as chocolate and chips. And the fifth one, Dr. Byron has long held that there is a link between diet and acne. Okay, please type your answers. What is the correct order of these numbers? Type your responses, please, on the messenger box. Or message box, sorry, or the chat box. Okay, what is the correct sequence? What do you think is the correct sequence here? And let's try to see if it's easier compared to the types of questions that you received for Ielts a while ago. So I'm waiting for people to go ahead and type their responses. All right. By the way, guys, you get 1 point for every correctly written pair in correct order. Okay, so if you choose a couple of items, right, then you get 1 point for that, for every correct sequence. So I'm seeing some answers already. Some people have already thought of their response. Okay, so I'm seeing 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there. How about the rest? Okay, Liza gave an answer. Mary Ann also gave an answer. How about the others? What would be the order of the paragraphs that you're seeing right here? Okay, this is a type of question that you get for PTE. You don't get this for IELTS. If you get the correct answer here, then certainly you're going to get a higher chance of getting the perfect score for PTE compared to that of IELTS. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of answers. Right, the correct sequence, and this is something that you have done without any prior preparation. You haven't reviewed at all for PTE. You wrote 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. What is the correct response? Let's read. Dr. Byron has long held that there is a link between diet and acne. Correct. 5. He convinced Professor Fitzgerald of the University of Hull to set up a study into this matter. 1, all right, Professor Fitzgerald and his team studied more than 47,000 women. 2, the women were asked to fill in a questionnaire about their diet and their suffering from acne. 3, and no link was found. So 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. Congratulations. You have been able to get 4 points. Now, for those people who wrote a different answer, if you got 2 right, then you get 1 point for that. So for example, you got 1, 2 right, or 3, 4 right, then you get 2 points for that. Okay. Or you get 2 points for that. Okay. So there you have it. That's reorder paragraphs. Much easier compared to the types of questions that you can encounter in your IELTS. Here's another type of question that you can encounter in the test. This is called reading, fill in the blanks. So what you're going to do here is not to anymore comprehend the passage, but just fill in the empty spaces with the correct response. Okay, so here we have a passage and you have to pick out from the blue section at the bottom which one you think is the correct response for every blank. Okay, so we have a list of options here: ultimate, variable, analytical, flexible, theoretical, considerable, and decisive. These are the different options that we have. So let's start with the first one. Master of Science in Information Technology, MSc in IT. Our program will develop your blank knowledge of computer science. What kind of knowledge will that be, guys? What do you think is the correct response here? Is it ultimate knowledge, variable, analytical, flexible, theoretical, considerable, or decisive? Okay, which collocates with knowledge? I think the correct answer here is, which one is the correct answer? Yep, it's theoretical. You got that one right. Amazing, right? Without comprehending what this passage is all about, you're able to pick out the correct response, right? I don't know if this is, even an English test or a reading comprehension test, because it's not, right? And your problem solving and blank skills. What kind of skills, guys? Ultimate, variable, analytical, flexible, considerable, or decisive? What kind of skills? What kind of skills? Okay, I'm seeing some some people posting answers already. All right. So what kind of skills? Problem solving is a clue, no? One is your problem solving skills, and the other would be correct response. Analytical, correct. Okay, analytical skills. While enabling you to achieve the, okay, look at this word right here, the blank qualification, the blank qualification, the ultimate, the variable, the flexible, the considerable, or the decisive qualification for the IT professional. The means to say one and only. We have a very specific article here, a definite article. So what do you think is the correct response? Correct answer is ultimate. Okay, so there you go, ultimate. All right, the program structure is extremely blank, enabling you to personalize your MSc through a wide range of electives. Are we dealing with something that is variable, a variable structure, or a flexible structure, a considerable, or a decisive structure? What kind of structure is it? Correct answer is, did you get everything right? Flexible. Okay. All right. So if you've tried a few items or a few types of questions for your exam, I'm going to stop sharing now. I have a quick question for everybody here. Where did you get more points? Is it for the Ielts questions or for the PTE questions? Because if you're headed to some countries, including Australia, perhaps, or New Zealand that accept the PTE, and you got a better score in the PTE questions compared to the IELTS questions, then you would actually be able to decide on which examination you would want to pursue, right? I personally believe that PTE questions for reading are very different from IELTS and a lot easier compared to the questions that you get for IELTS. And here's actually one more thing. For the reading examination of the Pearson Test of English, as we have discussed in previous sessions, your read aloud, in which you will be reading a passage aloud, that you're going to be given a text and you just have to read that aloud, you will get grades for that, and that will contribute largely to your grade in the reading component. So if you feel like your reading comprehension skills are a little bit lacking or very much insufficient for you to get a good grade, then your read aloud will help you compensate and fill in the gap that you might have with your reading comprehension, because it's not just purely a reading comprehension test. So I hope that this session would enlighten you and will also help you to understand the two exams and compare them against each other, so that hopefully you will be able to decide which examination you would ultimately take for your overseas application, which one is going to save you a lot of time reviewing, which one will give you a better chance of getting the right score. But again, for those people who are not headed to Australia or not going to New Zealand, or probably not applying for a student visa, then you're left with no choice. You have to take Ielts. So you will have to tackle the types of questions that I gave you a while ago, because Ielts is not a walk in the park. It's not a simple examination. It requires uh, um, intensive preparation and a lot of training, and the right guidance perhaps on how you're going to attack or how you're going to tackle the questions that you're going to receive in your IELTS, right? IELTS is not an examination for faint-hearted people. You have to be a very determined person. You have to be patient. You have to be persevering, and you have to be a hardworking person for you to get a good score. You have to put in the hours trying to train for your IELTS and trying to hit that target score in your exam, because it's not a piece of cake. It's not a walk in the park. It's not something that you can do without any type of preparation whatsoever, right? But PTE might be actually a little bit more attainable, bit more manageable compared to IELTS. If you're headed to Australia or to New Zealand, you want to apply for an immigrant visa there, you might want to consider the PTE, right? Okay, so I do have some questions here. So I'll answer now some questions on Facebook. All right. So, what are the differences between IELTS and PT? I guess there are plenty of differences, and I will be discussing them along the way. And if you haven't watched my two other lessons here at IFNG about writing and speaking, please do watch those videos, because in those videos, I thoroughly discuss the differences between IELTS and PT. There are similarities, but there are also quite a number of differences. Okay. Saang bansa po accredited ang PTE? It is used for student visas mainly, and for all visa applications going to Australia. So if you're headed to Australia, this is actually a very good option, right? Is PT acceptable in the UK for employment? No, it is not. It is actually only for the Antipodean countries like Australia and New Zealand, not so much in the UK or European countries, or not even in Canada. In certain parts of the US, it's accepted, but it's actually probably the least acceptable examination out of all of the different tests that you can set, like IELTS, OET, and PTE. But again, it's a very logical option if you're headed to Australia and you want to apply there as an immigrant. How much is the PTE? It's actually a lot cheaper compared to IELTS. It's around 10,000 bucks, because it's 210 US dollars at this time. But if you use our code here at Niner, our code is Niner, NINER, all capital letters. When you check out, you're going to get 10% discount off the price of your PTE. So you're going to get it for just around 9,000 plus. So it's a lot cheaper in comparison to the IELTS, because IELTS is 11,650 bucks without discounts. And there are no discounts for the IELTS, only for PTE. If you use our Niner code, NINER, so don't forget to type that in before you check out, so you get your discount. Sayang din, pang grab din yun, di ba? Pang kain din, pang lunch din before you take your exam. Okay, or after you take your exam. Any more questions, guys? Right. So I hope that this has been a helpful session. And if you want more sessions like this, then do keep on watching and following IFNG's free live sessions with 9.09er lecturers. And if you also want to enroll in our center, you can do so by inquiring through our Facebook page, which is 9.09er official. Just send us a message and we'll be happy to help you or assist you in enrolling in our center. And do you have any more questions? I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope to see you in one of my future sessions as well here for PTE. I'm still going to discuss listening for the Pearson Test of English, so you can weigh in your options and be able to come up with a very sound and informed decision on what examination you really wish to take for your overseas dreams, right? So admin IFNG, hello po. Yeah, I hope that this has been a very insightful and exciting session for our audience.
Oh, yes, sir, as always, because hashtag Brainy Brian. Okay, so, sir, there's another question. So, where
Yes
can you take
po.
the exam in
Oh,
PH?
good question. Right. Here in the Philippines, we have two testing centers for the Pearson Test of English. We have one in Cebu and the other one is in Manila, which is particularly in Makati City. So unfortunately, right now, the PT is not yet available elsewhere. So you will have to travel to either Cebu or Makati if you want to take the examination. So unlike Ielts, which is available everywhere, almost everywhere, I guess, in the Philippines, this is actually an examination that you would have very limited access to if you're not from Manila or from Cebu.
Is it at Trident, sir? Am I correct?
Yes, yes, that's
Trident. Ah,
correct.
okay.
Yeah,
Ah,
Trident
and
Tower.
Tex. Okay,
Yeah,
so,
the Pearson View Center.
yes,
Yes.
okay. So, any questions, guys? No
Yeah, may
questions?
questions pa? Yon, right.
Okay,
So
so,
thank you so much, admin, and to all of the audience, all of the people who tuned in to this lesson up till the end of our discussion. I hope to see you in one of my future classes and sessions here at IFNG, and hopefully you'd be also part of our center if you're interested. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope I didn't waste your time as well. Okay.
thank you,
All
Sir
right. Bye,
Brian.
guys.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.